A Uniqlo Supima t-shirt sells for $19.90 across Australian stores. That same fiber grade appears in premium designer ranges priced above $80. 5 brands available to every shopper in this country are built from identical materials to those expensive lines, and most people walk straight past them. That gap between price and quality exists because of how the fashion industry is structured, and because most shoppers have been conditioned to read a tag as a proxy for construction. By the end of this, that assumption will be difficult to hold on to. If this kind of research is useful, joining the channel is exactly how you help keep it going. Number 5. Kirkland's signature. 1/3 of everything sold under a Costco roof carries this private label. The clothing section accounts for a fraction of that total volume, but it is the corner most shoppers in this country treat as invisible. 14 warehouses operate across Australia, and the apparel aisle inside each one is among the least discussed value propositions in domestic retail today. Kirkland's signature launched in 1995 on a model that sounds almost too straightforward. Work directly with the factories producing name brand goods. Commission identical versions under a private label. Strip out the wholesale distributor margin, the marketing budget, and the retail premium. Pass every dollar of savings through to the member at the register. This approach has been applied across hundreds of product categories for 3 decades, and clothing is the corner of the business most people have failed to act on. The logic is widely accepted in other categories. Duracell manufactures the Kirkland battery range. Kimberly-Clark produces the diapers. Shoppers across this country apply that reasoning to every household staple without hesitation. The identical principle governs the apparel aisle, yet uptake from Australian consumers remains remarkably low given the scale of savings available. Kirkland jeans retail in the $15 to $20 bracket. The construction is 99 parts cotton to 1 part spandex, a classic 5-pocket cut, and manufacturing sourced from the samitier of factory-producing mid-range denim at 3 to 4 times the price elsewhere. The t-shirts run $6 to $9 for a 3-pack. Dress tops land between $30 and $40. Chinos sit in the $20 to $25 range. Outerwear, available seasonally, undercuts comparable retail product by 50 to 70% across the board. Customer feedback on Kirkland jeans outlasting $60 alternatives has circulated among regular Costco members for years. The construction data supports those accounts. The production cost of a garment is essentially identical in both cases. The divergence appears in what the shelf price has to carry beyond the item itself: marketing budgets, wholesale distributor margins, floor rent, and brand premium. At Kirkland, the retail figure covers the manufacturing expense and a warehouse position. Everything else is structurally eliminated. The stitch test applies here directly. Take a Kirkland pair alongside a department store equivalent at 3 times the price. Turn both inside out. On an interior seam, tally stitches per inch. Premium construction registers 8 to 12. Commodity work lands at 5 to 7. This product, sourced from the same factory tier as mid-range branded denim, consistently hits that upper band. The label is the primary difference between the 2 items. The access cost is a Costco membership at $65 annually. For any Australian household buying 2 pairs of jeans across a year, that card recovers its value in a single visit, with savings across every other category arriving on top. This is the most overlooked item on the entire list, and the one most people in this country already have physical reach through a warehouse in their state, yet consistently walk past on the way to the bulk groceries. Number 4 is where the pattern starts to become a system. Drop a like if this is useful. Number 1 is the brand nobody sees coming. Number 4. Uniqlo. Most shoppers in Australia place this brand in the same mental category as H&M or Zara, fast fashion basics at a slightly sharper price point. That categorization is costing them real money because Uniqlo operates on a fundamentally different production model to every other retailer, sharing that shelf space in the consumer's mind. Fast Retailing, the parent company, runs an in-house fabric research institute in Tokyo. HeatTech, AIRism, and the DryX moisture management line are proprietary textiles developed through internal engineering programs. These are built under research conditions that most fashion houses lack the infrastructure to replicate. Several of these fabrics were developed in partnership with textile science organizations that also supply aerospace and high-performance athletic manufacturing sectors. The brand opened its first Australian store in Melbourne in 2013 and has been expanding steadily since. Today it operates across Sydney, Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide, with additional suburban and online reach covering the rest of the country. The expansion trajectory mirrors what fast retailing executed across Asia, Europe and North America. Anchor in major cities, build recognition through product quality, then scale. That process is still underway locally, which means the label remains underestimated relative to what it actually delivers. The centerpiece for this list is the Supima cotton t-shirt, available in stores at $19.90. That designation is a trademarked classification for American-grown extra-long staple fiber. Less than 1% of global production qualifies for that status. The same grade appears in premium menswear and womenswear at $100 and above across boutiques and department stores throughout the country. Uniqlo sells it with Japanese manufacturing quality control applied at the factory level. Weight, hand feel, seam construction, and neckline stability are all reviewed before garments leave production. For denim, the brand sources from Kaihara, a Japanese mill established in 1893, and considered one of the foundational suppliers in selvage production. The same facility provides fabric to heritage labels sold at $200 a pair through Australian stockists. The selvage line at approximately $50 uses cloth woven on Kaihara looms in Hiroshima. The distinction between that product and the $200 alternative lies in the finishing and the branding. The raw material origin is constant. Japan applied the same manufacturing discipline it brought to precision engineering and consumer electronics to everyday clothing essentials. The result is a retail environment where the most expensive item rarely exceeds $50, and most pieces outperform garments at 3 to 4 times the price across repeated washing. The Supima t-shirt at $19.90 is the clearest single expression of that system in the local market. That same fiber classification in a Brooks Brothers equivalent retails in Australia for $80 and above. The cut is different. The cotton grade is identical. This is where the pattern starts to show itself. If you are shopping for clothing, today's best deals on Amazon Australia are in the description. Save money on your next purchase with the link below. Number 3. Lowe's. In 1910, a single menswear store opened in Sydney. It survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the collapse of domestic manufacturing, the arrival of global fast fashion, and the structural shift toward online retail. Over a century later, Lowe's continues trading from more than 160 locations across the country, and the average shopper under 40 has almost certainly walked past a shopfront without once stopping. That invisibility is structural, and it is the point. Lowe's has operated outside the trend cycle for its entire existence. The business produces no rotating collections in the fashion industry sense. There are no influencer partnerships, no campaign launches, no celebrity collaborations. The retail model is built on consistent core product at direct pricing, sold to a customer base that returns because the value is repeatable year after year. The Oxford business shirt retails from around $29. Classic collar construction, a range of fits covering formal and relaxed cuts, and sizing that extends significantly beyond what most fashion-forward retailers stock. Full-size inclusivity was maintained through every phase of Australian retail consolidation over the past 2 decades. Competitors narrowed their ranges to reduce inventory complexity. Lowe's kept the full spread, which means the customer who could never find a fitting option at David Jones or Myer has had consistent access here for a fraction of the price. Chinos sit in the $30 to $45 bracket. The drill work shirt, a staple of the tradesperson's wardrobe across this country, runs from around $25. Fleece, outerwear basics, and seasonal layers fill out the offering into genuine utility territory. The store serves the teacher buying business casual wear, the retiree replacing basics, and the worker sourcing functional gear for a physical job. These customers arrive at the same shopfront, and the construction across all 3 categories punches well above the price point. The lean overhead model keeps costs down. Store fit-outs are functional rather than aspirational in their presentation, and that deliberate choice flows directly into the pricing. Every dollar that stays out of the shopfront ambiance ends up in the garment. This is the same structural logic Kirkland uses inside a warehouse. Lowe's deploys it within a suburban shopping center with no membership required. Shoppers in this country have had over a century to make that discovery. The majority keep walking past toward the same 3 fashion chains, taking more of their money for similar or lesser construction. The sizing range deserves specific attention in the local context. The retail sector has progressively narrowed its standard offerings as brands chase tighter demographics. Lowe's decision to maintain extended options across its core product range makes it the most accessible entry on this list for a significant portion of the adult population who find standard fashion retail genuinely exclusionary. At $29 for a well-constructed business shirt across a full spread of sizes, the case is straightforward. Number 2 is where durability becomes an engineering standard rather than a marketing claim. Number 2. King G. The work pants on a tradie's body at 6 in the morning were engineered to survive conditions that destroy standard fabric inside a single season. Oils, abrasives, UV exposure across an Australian summer, repeated industrial washing, and constant stress point failure from physical movement across rough terrain. King G has been producing workwear specifically for those demands since 1926, and the construction specifications on their core range remain among the most rigorous in this country's clothing retail at any price point. Founded here in 1926, the label built its reputation outfitting the workers who constructed this country's infrastructure through some of its most intensive development decades. The product range was built around a single principle: gear that survives the kind of work rendering everything else unwearable before the job is finished. The mining sector, the agricultural workforce, the civil construction industry, and the transport and logistics trade have collectively field-tested this brand across conditions that sit entirely beyond what any laboratory evaluation can replicate. Today, King G is stocked across Bunnings, Total Tools, Workwear Hub, trade supply chains, and safety equipment retailers throughout the country. It is present everywhere Australians perform physical work and almost completely invisible to everyone outside those industries. That distribution pattern creates the same blind spot, making every entry on this list undervalued. The people who know the product best are the ones with the least reason to tell anyone who shops elsewhere. The Workcool cargo pant retails in the $50 to $60 range depending on configuration and retailer. Polycotton construction with triple-stitched stress points, reinforced knee panels, UV protection certified to the highest Australian outdoor standard, and a cut-engineered for movement rather than presentation. Stitch counts on King G stress points consistently exceed what designer-inspired workwear a tone $150 provides. The fabric treatments, including moisture management and UV ratings, are technical specifications developed specifically for Australian conditions, with heat intensity and physical demand factored into every production decision. The stubby short, a King G item so embedded in working culture that the brand name became a generic term for the garment itself, has been in continuous production across multiple decades. This is one of the rare cases in any clothing market where a product so thoroughly defined its category that the label replaced the descriptor in everyday language. That kind of cultural penetration requires generations and an item that earns the position through sustained performance, consistently delivered. Compare King G drill work pants at $45 to $55 against the designer workwear aesthetic that has circulated through fashion retail across the past decade. Brands pricing work-inspired chinos in the $120 to $180 range typically run lower stitch counts, eliminate stress point reinforcement, and use fabric weights that look appropriate on a cafe terrace but fail under genuine physical demands. The King G product is the engineering. The premium alternative reproduces the visual language of construction without the underlying specification. The price gap between them reflects marketing investment and retail channel positioning, with actual build quality running in the opposite direction to what the figures imply. The range also extends into high-visibility workwear, protective outwear, and specialized industrial categories where Australian workplace legislation creates enforceable construction standards. Clothing sold into those categories must meet documented specifications. King G meets those requirements at a price point that keeps the total cost of outfitting a worker in compliant gear well below what premium workwear brands charge for equivalent certification. Number 1 is where this gets personal for every Australian who has ever bought the wrong gear. Drop a comment with the brand you already buy from. Curious how many here are already on the list. Number 1. Hard Yucca. The overalls hanging in a display at a trade supply store carry a label tracing back to 1933. Australian-made, built for this continent's conditions, engineered for the specific demands of agriculture, construction, mining, and the industrial work that has shaped this economy across almost a century of operation. Most people outside those industries have purchased exactly 0 pieces from this maker. That gap is what this entry is built to close. The brand began producing workwear in 1933, originally trading under a simpler name before Hard Yucca emerged as the primary identity. All of it was built around one operating principle: clothing that survives the kind of work making lesser gear unwearable before the shift ends. Over 9 decades, the mining sector, the agricultural workforce, the construction industry, and the electrical and civil engineering trades have collectively tested this maker under conditions no controlled evaluation can replicate. The garments that came back from that testing were progressively refined. The ones that failed were redesigned. The cargo pant retails in the $55 to $70 range depending on specification and retail channel. Polycotton drill fabric, reinforced stress points, multiple utility pocket configurations designed for tools specific to trade work, and construction reviewed against Australian occupational health standards. The stretch cargo line introduces mechanical flexibility into the fabric without sacrificing the durability ratings that made the core product useful in physically demanding environments. That balance is technically difficult to achieve and takes years of material development to get right at a manufacturable price point. The long-sleeve workshirt sits in the $45 to $60 range. Vented back panels for heat management, UV protection ratings developed for outdoor exposure across Australian summers, triple-stitched seams, and collar construction that holds shape through repeated industrial washing. The garment was developed for a worker doing 8 to 12 hours of labor in conditions ranging from coastal humidity to inland heat. Every design element reflects a requirement drawn from that specific use case, derived from a physical brief rather than a trend forecast. What separates this brand from every other entry on the list is the depth of local context embedded in the product. Kirkland and Uniqlo are global operations serving Australia as part of an international network. Loews is domestic but generalist in its coverage. King G carries a century of sector-specific heritage. Hard Yucca was built specifically for Australian working conditions, tested in environments across climatic extremes, and refined across generations of workers who had zero tolerance for clothing that failed on a job site. The garments carry that history in their construction data, and the shelf price reflects none of the premium that background would command if the maker operated through fashion channels instead of trade supply. A Hard Yucca workshirt at $55 and a fashion brand workwear aesthetic top at $190 are built to solve different problems. One was designed to survive a demolition site in Western Australia across 40-degree heat and weeks of daily use. The other was designed to look credible in a context where physical work is aesthetic rather than operational. The price difference between them has little to do with construction quality. It reflects which distribution channel each passes through and what the assumed customer is paying for beyond the garment itself. The brand is accessible through Bunnings, Workwear Hub, trade supply chains, safety retailers, and direct digital channels with national delivery. For Australians in regional and rural areas, that network closes the gap entirely. The product is within reach of every shopper in this country at a price that has stayed relatively consistent with actual production cost rather than with the marketing investment required to make a fashion label feel aspirational. If you own a brand that delivers more than the tag implies, put the name in the comments. Help the next Australian find what most people walk past. Share this with someone paying full price at a brand spending more on marketing than manufacturing.